Is energy healing real? This was my question when I first heard about energy healing. In nursing school years ago, I had been taught that any alternative methods of healing were simple quackery, and that Western medicine was the only valid medicine. New to the whole field of healthcare and very obedient to authority, as a young nurse, I did not question that opinion at the time. I bought into that limited viewpoint and I continued to believe it for years until Western medicine policies, procedures, and prescriptions did not work for my health or for the ultimate well-being of my care home clients. Shifting from that limited perspective to a viewpoint that healing is holistic is a whole story in itself. But today, I'll share just a little bit about my own intuitive awakening. I had always believed in God, and I felt guided spiritually on many occasions, even receiving specific answers to prayer. But when it came to health and wellness, I knew nothing of working with the subtle energy fields that flow in and around every human being, until unexpected episodes of intuitive awakening began happening to me. For example, my hands and feet would start tingling for no apparent reason, or I would just know what was going to happen before it happened, or I would have a very realistic dream and a few days later the dream played out in real life. At first, I thought what I was experiencing might be symptoms of illness, but these episodes would easily dissipate and I'd forget about them and take on the practical things of daily life with my family, with our business, and being part of our community. One day, I walked into the chapel with my husband for Sunday church. 200 people were already seated, and I experienced what I can only describe as an instant vision and a knowing. Unexplainably, as I entered the room, I saw energy in the air. It looked like sunlight when it filters through the trees, but this was not sunlight. There were no windows in that room. I saw concentrated centers of energy above the heads of some of the people. Some of the people I knew and some whom I did not know. Intuitively, but unexplainedly, I somehow knew what was going on with these people, and it was very disconcerting. Most of them were experiencing some kind of trouble or sorrow in their lives, and I simply knew what their issues were. Some were struggling with marital issues, some from the effects of traumatic experiences, and some were in a crisis of faith. Those without current crisis seemed to be peaceful in their souls. I don't know why I was shown this vision on this particular day, but it was definitely a spiritual wake-up for me. I sensed that this might be a glimpse of what pure consciousness might feel like once we are gone from this human form. But the thing was, I really did not want to know such sensitive things about others. I had enough of my own problems to worry about, and I didn't know any way that I could be of help to these people in their situations. I felt like my conscious awareness of their challenges was intrusive to them, that their private issues were none of my business. My husband and I always hold hands during church, but that day I just couldn't hold his hand. My hand felt like it was burning up and I had to let go. When I did, I felt an invisible but very palpable ball of energy in my hand. I could really feel it. Instinctively, I played with this ball of energy, tossing it back and forth from one hand to the other. Then I asked my husband to open his hand, and I gave that ball of energy to him, and it was gone from me. Leaving the chapel after that meeting, I saw my friend Diane sitting on the back row. She reached out to me and invited me to sit with her for a moment. She asked how I was doing. Honestly, I'm sure she already knew what was going on with me, and she sensed that I was resisting a new level of spiritual and energetic awareness. I felt compelled to tell her what I had experienced that day, and she said she thought I might be an empath. I did not even know what an empath was, except that I had been taught that there seemed to be a difference between sympathy and empathy. That sympathy was like feeling sorry for the sorrows of others, but empathy was like actually feeling their sorrows as if they were your own. I told her what had happened to me that day and that I had found it distressingly overwhelming. I didn't know what to do about any of it. She suggested that I install an empath dial and tune the energy down a bit, or completely off if I liked. That was interesting. Thinking that I could possibly control spiritual senses? But I thought my heightened intuitive senses might be an awakening gift. I didn't want to completely deny the gift. So I took her advice and I imagined a dial with numbers from 0 to 10 and imagined installing it into my personal energy around me. She said if I had it on 10, that was full on wide open. But if I turned it down to 0, I would turn it all off. I've always had a great imagination, and I was open to suggestion, so I created the empathy dial with black numbers, like something like you might see on a stove out of the 50s. I imagined it somehow attached to the energy around me and chose to turn it down to the number 2. In that instant, all the energy I could see in the room around me seemed to dissipate. I kept that imaginary dial in place for years to buffer myself from experiencing subtle energies that I did not know how to manage. But I kept learning. I studied multiple energy healing modalities and techniques, which I now use in meditative sessions. Expanding my awareness into the world of energy healing has developed my extrasensory skills, and I have learned to consciously connect and work with subtle energies appropriately, respecting healthy boundaries. I rarely get emotionally triggered anymore, but if I do, I know how to calm myself and how to identify and resolve any underlying issues. I am no longer afraid or overwhelmed by energies, either within myself or in the dimensions around me. One day, out of curiosity, I checked in to see if my imaginary empath dial was still set on 2, and I discovered that the whole thing had completely fallen away from my energy field because it was no longer needed. Energy healing techniques can help resolve unprocessed stress reactions that may be contributing to discomfort, anxiety, depression, or disease. My goal in sharing is to help you on your own self-healing journey, to help you realize that authentic healing is possible and it may be simpler than you might imagine. Thank you for listening. I have much more to share, so if my story interests you, please subscribe and follow along on my journey of holistic healing. May you be blessed with love and light in all dimensions of reality.